Hi, Ann Cornick from Paint and Porcelain. I'm here to teach beginners how to get started in China painting and hopefully to get those of you that are interested in China painting and experience to paint along with us. And today we're going to work on our squirrel. Isn't he adorable? I'm going to go through some of the things we go through for beginners because I know that we have a lot of people out there who have not been with us for very long, and I want to make sure that they have the same information everybody else does. You got your line drawing, and then you buy or you get Squirrel transfer paper or any transfer paper that you have. You can even take a piece of regular paper and take a pencil and just scribble on the back of it, you know, using the side of it, and then use that. But don't use carbon paper. And if you use carbon paper, because some people do, take like a paper towel and really wipe the carbon off as best you can because it sometimes will not fire out. The transfer paper is dark on one side, light on the other. You put the dark side on your piece and then you trace using your line drawing. And it will come off looking like this, only in red, because red is the color transfer paper I use. If you buy the black, it's graphite paper, it's okay, but it's going to smear a little more and it's going to give you a few more problems. This is black because I used a black Sharpie pen, which will fire out. But I put it on here so you could see what I was drawing. But leave it in the lightest that you get. Like if you get a light red, leave it in that because it'll be easier for you to be able to paint over it. We're going to be using a sea sponge. Now this is what my sea sponge looks like. But if you don't have a sea sponge, don't go out and buy stuff. If you've got one of those sponges that's all different colors that you can buy at like the grocery store or the department store, just tear off a corner of it. All you want is a rough, spongy edge. And in order to make it a little soft, you might have to like wet it and then let it almost dry completely out. Just, you don't want the water on what you're doing. But sea sponge is one of the things you'll need. The other thing you're going to need, if you have it, is the little, remember we were calling this a fur brush. Now, it's called a Texture It brush. It's a 1/4 inch is what I use. And this has a kind of a white top on it. These are the ones Nancy Gilbert sent me in. They're fabulous for doing fur. But if you don't have that, and you're a painter, and this is great because if you're a painter in a different medium, then you might have some of these other brushes. This is a fan brush, and you could just paint with a regular brush and then take the fan brush and brush over it, and it will give you the texture of fur. The other things we're going to use today are palette knives. These are this one's a little diamond-shaped one here. The key is that it's flexible. This one is a teardrop shape. It's a 22. The other one didn't have a size for it. And it's also very flexible. So you will need palette knives. Now, worst comes to worst, use your regular palette knife as long as it's flexible. Like my little guy, this is mine here, and he's rounded on the edges, but he's real flexible. That's the kind you want. I'm doing a red squirrel, so I have ivory, a medium brown. It can be anything. I have auburn up there, whatever you have. A rich brown, a black. And then I have a yellow brown and a yellow brown too. Now, if you don't have them, and I didn't have a yellow brown too until probably 10 years ago because I didn't even know there was one. Don't sweat the small stuff. You know, you have a ochre or something like that, that'll work just as well. And you can even use like you could probably use like a mixing yellow too. The pompadour we're going to use for his ears and his nose. The gray we're going to use for the bark. It can be any color gray. I have Cope gray here, Copenhagen gray. And this is warm brown gray. Now, if you don't have that, but you have a regular gray, take your regular gray, mix it with a little bit of your brown, the darkest brown you have, and it will give you something close to that, kind of like a deep taupe. So that's just some suggestions of ways that you can get the color without having to get the color. I'm going to start with the inside of his ears because that's probably the easiest thing to start with. And for that, you can use a small brush. I'm using my number 6. You could use a 4, you could use a 2, whatever you have available to you. It can be a square shader, it can be a rounded brush. It doesn't really matter. It's just something to do his ears. And I think anybody who's painted, even if you're new to painting, you know pretty much how to do that. By the way, I'm trying Turpenoid. I bought some because everybody was saying that they asked questions about Turpenoid and I knew nothing about it, so I thought I would learn. So I got some Turpenoid. I really like it. It really cleans the brushes extremely, extremely well, which is something that kind of surprised me. It cleans better than anything else I've ever used to clean my brushes. So I'm going to start and put the pink for his ears sort of just in the middle of the ear. I know that sounds funny, but that's what I'm doing. I'm just putting it in the middle of his ear like that. And then without cleaning my brush, I'm going to get a little bit of the lighter brown. I'm going to turn him upside down and I'm going to put the lighter brown up in here. And it may not even look like it's a lighter brown, and that's fine. I'm going to wipe my brush off a little bit, and I'm going to then go into the darker brown, flip them around facing me again, and I'm going to do this part down here. Oops, I need more brown. I want it to be have a little bit of a, shadow to it. I'm just tapping it, kind of tapping the color across. That's it. Clean my brush. Now I'm going to go into the pompadour again. And I'm just going to do his little nose. The bottom part of his nose is a little redder than the top part of his nose. At least the guy I'm working on is. Always have a picture of whatever you're working on nearby, even if it's a similar animal but maybe not the same animal. You know, the same drawing exactly, but have something close by that you can refer to because it always helps. And I'm going to do his little mouth with just a little bit of that pompadour. Okay, that's it. I'm done with the pompadour now. Okay, so now I'm going to start with the brush that I've been calling a fur brush, but it's really called a texture it brush, and it's made by, as I said, Scharf, and you can still buy this brush. And I'm using yellow brown 2 now. If you don't have yellow brown 2 and you have ochre, that's fine. If you don't have yellow brown 2 but you have a medium brown, use that. I'm just putting it in at the base here a little bit. Boop, 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 boop. And I'm putting it in on its side going across, and then I'll just pull it up a little bit like this. And I should do the same thing on this side. It covered better in the corner, I thought. If you go out of line, don't worry about it. And the top of his little ears are a little more of a yellow brown, or if you have an ivory, you can use the ivory there. And so I'm just going to fill in the top of his ears using the side of my brush, just getting the color in there. See how that looks? And then I'm gonna blend them together on that one line there. I just don't want a line. Okay. Alrighty. And now I'm gonna start working on his little face. And his little face is kind of a combination of colors. So I'm going to start with a yellow brown 2, and I'm going to come from the center of his nose, and I'm going to start coming up this way and just pulling the color up, making kind of a V from the center of his nose and just pulling the color up. Sometimes you have to turn around a little bit to see what you're doing. That's fine too. They're short, jagged strokes. Short, jagged strokes. They're choppy. Can you see I have the texture in there already? That's what I'm looking for, is the texture. And as I get closer to the top, I'm going to add a little brown like up in here. Get that out of the way. So now I can come back down here, and I'm just going to, it's almost like feathering, but you're just doing these short little strokes. Short little strokes. You want to leave a little white around his eye. And you want these to be smooth. So you kind of have to watch. You don't want like here and then here and then here. You kind of want to blend them all together. Can you see how I've tried to do that? See how I've got it coming now from the middle of his face straight up this way. That's kind of what I was going for. Now I'm going to clean out my brush really well. Ooh, that color really stuck. There we go. And I'm going to go to a lighter color. You can use either an ivory or a yellow brown. And I'm going to do it on the sides. I'm going to do it here and here, just a little bit, just a little bit. Oh, I've got to turn it because you always have to paint towards you. I might have to pull it this way too to get it back there. There we go. And a little here too. And I'll pull it this way because you want to blend it. Now on my little squirrel, he has a little bit right here of kind of a brown. So I took my warm brown gray and I'm just tapping in the pattern so that I have it, so I know where it is. And you can do that. You can just tap in a pattern and then you can pull it around and it'll be fine for you. I'm going to take a little yellow brown and I'm just going to pull from here. A little more yellow brown. A little more yellow brown. And I'm going to pull that color up into here and up around his eye a little bit. Okay, that's how he looks now. And you see I just have that little bit of darkness right where I wanted it. When I'm all done with this, I will have a study available and it has step-by-step directions. And it also has attached to it, you can take and click on the links and you can listen to either the YouTube or the Facebook version of this. So it should be easy to do. Now, if you don't have the brush I'm using, let me just show you how it would turn out. Okay, let me get a, okay, here's my brush. I'm going to add a little bit of the these colors to his chin, kind of a, looks like he has a little yellow brown down there. So I'm going to take a little yellow brown, put it on his chin like that, just to the edge. Okay, and then I'm going to take this brush and then you can just pull it. This brush is pretty widely spaced. I have a nicer one, but this is the one I think I keep using. I don't know why. I think it gives me better results. And you just pull it. And it will get you the same effect. So don't feel that you missed out on something just because you don't have the exact colors that I have or the exact brushes that I have, because you have not. And I'm just going to put a little more color right here. That's good. Now, one thing I noticed about this squirrel is that he has kind of white around his eyes. So I'm going to take a pointer. So I've got Turpenoid only on here right now. And I'm just going to go around this eye and just pull back a little bit. Do this before you put the black on the eye. And then I'm going to go around this eye. Just pull back a little bit of the color. And then I'm going to look here and I'm going to decide I want a little more white back in here. If you do it with the pointer, it'll give you that same effect that you had with the other brush. Oop, a little too much there. And then I want a little white here. And maybe a little white right here. Okay. And I want a little bit of the brown gray, I think right on the top of his nose, up in here. Oops. There we go. And he has a little up in here as well. Okay, I think that does it. All right, so that's what I have so far. We're going to put the black on his eyes, and then we're going to move down into his body. I think I'm just going to pull this up just a tad there so it blends a little better. This brush is great for that, but because it's fur, it leaves a little bit of a line, so you couldn't use it as a blending brush per se. But now, if you don't have the warm brown gray, you can use gray to do the area under his chin. And I'm just going to do from here oh, I'm looking at the picture. Here's what I did. This is my picture of him. And you see here, I started with the bottom and then I made a layer over. And that's kind of what I want to do. So I'm going to turn him around. I'm going to start him at the bottom here. Otherwise his fur won't go off like that. Get a little more there. But then I have to turn him around or I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, and then I'm going to keep pulling up this way. The longer you make your strokes, the more you'll be able to see layers. This is a smoother kind of fur. This is a fluffier kind of fur. So if you want layers, you're going to have to take and start putting in here longer strokes. Can you see that? From the top and from the bottom, make your strokes a little longer, and that will indicate he's a little fluffier there. Also, you can make them come out different directions because the fur, when it's fluffier, doesn't all come flat like this does. It comes out in different directions, kind of. So you can play with it a little bit and really enjoy it. Now that's all I'm going to do right there right now because I want to finish this section and this section, which is more of the softer fur and the straighter fur. Okay, I'm going to start from up here. You have to remember, you want a little bit of that fur look over this line. So that's why I'm starting up there, and I'm using an ivory this time. And I'm just coming down. Oops, grabbed the wrong color there. And then I'm going to just pull that back up a little. And then because he's right by the tree there, I want a little more color. I'm going to put a little yellow brown number 2. Just a hint. Can you see what I did there? Oh. Okay. Now on this side, he's also that ivory kind of color, more of an ivory or yellow brown if you have it. It doesn't really matter. And you're going to do it like that. On this side of his leg, he's going to have white, and he's going to have some white fur back in here. So try to stay away from that right now, because what you're trying to do is just lay in the other colors. On the second fire, we're really going to lay in more of the individual little colors, you know, and little, he'll have some individual little fur, you know, like darker fur and stuff that goes into some of these places. But right now, I'm just using my ivory and I'm laying in the color. His hand looks terrible there. Let me correct that. I don't want his hand to look like that. This is a hand here, and this is his thumb. Make that a little smaller then. And then we're going to come a little further up this way like that. I'm going to use a little yellow brown down here just to give us a little more color. And then, like I said, you go long because you're going to go into the, oops, you're going to go into the white fur. And then there's a little bit of, kind of a little bit of white fur up in here. Just a little bit. Just a tad. Now, and then over here we want a little bit of white fur. So when you do the white fur, clean off your brush, put a little bit of oil on it. You don't want it without oil. And you're going to pull from the white area into the fur area that you already have there to give it that soft fur look. And this is the dark coming over the light, so you pull that down over the light. There we go. Okay. And then down here at the very bottom of him, I'm going to just do a little bit of darkness so that we have it. And it's just shadow. It's not really fur, but because it's him, I just put a little darkness down there. And we'll pull it down. It's just a shadow, really. Okay. All right. Okay. Now for his eyes. You're going to take a pointer if you have it, and you're going to put it in your black. I think a pointer works better here than a liner because I think a pointer you can control better. And I'm just going to go around the eye. I can rest my hand. I keep thinking there's something there. And around the eye down here and here. And then I'm just going to paint it in. Now he has kind of a funny look to his eye. I don't like that. So I'm going to do that. And a little more there. There we go. Okay, and then on this side, go around the outside of his eye with your pointer. And then start filling it in. And then fill it in a little more. That's him. See him looking right at you? All right, now we're going to do the tree. Now, the tree is something that I sort of made up as I went along, but I really liked it. What I want is a textured tree, a really textured tree. So I'm going to start with my number 6 brush. I'm going to start on the skinny ones up here. I'm going to take my gray, and I'm just going to go along this side of the tree, sideways. I'm applying the color sideways, like this. This way. You see how I'm doing that? I don't even know if you can tell really, but there, I'm putting it on the tree that way. Here, let me add a little brown to it so you can see it. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going all the way down. And you can be a little sloppy. That's okay. And when you get down in here, you can put a little down in there. Okay, so that's what I've done so far. Just put my gray on. Now watch this. This is so cool. Taking my little palette knife. You know how much I love palette knives. All right. And I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing. So there's no oil on it. I am dipping it into the brown. So I get a little paint on the back. Not a lot, just a little. Okay, and you're just going to go on the side that will have the dark, which is the opposite side from this. You can use your medium brown or your light brown. This one I'm going to... Oh, too much paint, I could tell. And you're just going to lay it down wherever you want it. I'm going to put a little up in here, in the crutch of that tree, and a little here. Yep. You can switch the colors to whatever you want them to be. You can go like this, but what the object is to lay the color in so it looks like tree. And then if you don't like it, you can go back and smooth out a little of it. Like here I went way over the edge. There we go. And you just leave it looking all crusty, and then you can go back with the lighter brown and just sort of do the other side of that tree. The side that's in shade. Come across the tree. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm using my filbert. Taking my gray, my warm brown gray, and I'm just messing it around. Mixing them together, messing it around. Any way I want. The darker side's going to be on the bottom. I'm just messing it around. You can even do some of that up in here if you think it'll help. Sometimes the filbert is a better little guy to use for this. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to take my palette knife again. This time I'm going to use the bigger palette knife. And I'm just going to do the same thing again. Just touch, drag a little. Maybe down here where the crutch is there in the tree. I don't know, maybe up in here. There we go. And maybe down in here. Maybe where it goes right into the tree here. That's my version of a tree. So I think right up in here I could use a little something. Hang on. There, that's better. Okay, so that's the texture on my branch. Now I'm coming down this side, and this is where it's going to get tricky. I want to make big chunks of bark all the way down this side. I'm taking my gray. I'm going to turn it on its side. I seem to have pretty good luck with that. And I'm just going to, my gray is kind of a blue gray, as you can see. I want big chunks. Okay, now I'm going to my warm brown gray. You don't have to be real exact with this. Okay. Then I do want a darker brown along the edge here. Alrighty. Now I'm going to take my big palette knife. And I'm going to get it into the dark stuff. And I'm going to create a knot hole. There we go. And I'm going to go back up the tree and just create, oh, you have to be careful. See what happened there? You don't want that. Here, let me move it up a little. You don't want these lines. So if you get those, just kind of get rid of them. But you do want to use the side of your palette knife and just kind of add some color. I'm using this part of my palette knife. This part right here. Yeah. To just add, and I'm just lifting and moving. Okay, so that's a little more down here. Ah, you can see it. There, okay. Okay, I'm taking my sponge now, and I'm just hitting it over the tree. You can pull, you can do whatever you need to do to make it look more like a tree. Ta-da! Get some real barky look there. And that's my little guy. Not bad, eh? So now the only other thing I'm going to do is take my palette, my brush, clean it off, clean up some of these spots where I went way out of the lines, because I'm a messy person on this. And over here we need to get a little bit of this off the tree because the tree doesn't have fur, the bunny, the squirrel does. So okay, so there's my little squirrel. You can see he's like adorable. And this is what he'll look like when he's fired. You'll lose a little bit of that. But the texture on the tree and everything is still there. So I think that will work out really well. Pick up those brushes, keep painting, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed the program, and I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe so that other people can learn more about China painting and we can get the word out to more people. You also can look at the links below. My PaintnPorcelain.com website has a lot of freebies and printables for new and experienced painters, as well as studies, supplies, and even some of my hand-painted china. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.